दिशा में तेरी कीर्ति, दिव्य रूप तेरी ज्योति, हर दिशा में तेरी कीर्ति, एक ओम का ही ध्यान मुक्ति पथ दिखाए, साचा रूप साचा रंग मन में दिखाए, प्रकाशित हृदय में ईश्वर।
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। We were studying about the pyramid of life. The pyramid of life has a simple law on which it is based, which is that quality and quantity are inversely proportional. The grosser things are more in number, the subtler things are fewer in number. So, as subtlety increases, number decreases. Now, this law is very important for us because it explains the reasons why a developed person is a happier person. So we studied the various reasons, right? We studied that his general happiness level excuse me, we studied that his general happiness level is better because his desires are few. Why are his desires fewer? Because they're subtler, so they're fewer. Then, because the desire is subtler, the object is also subtler. So now there's a second reason why he will gain happiness, more happiness, because what he's enjoying, that thing itself is a better thing. The mind is available. As you develop, the mind becomes more and more available for the situation or circumstance you are in. Many people have many things in life, but they're not able to enjoy them because their mind is simply not available. I remember one man, he told, he was saying, lots of times people say, what has Vedanta done for them? I should also say, what according to you has Vedanta done for you? So this very interesting man, he said, what has Vedanta done for him? He said, I he was a very, very rich man. Extremely. He was a multi-billionaire, whatever very rich means. Very, very rich. He was among the top in terms of wealth. So, what has Vedanta done for you? He said, I learned to enjoy these lovely things which I have. I learned to enjoy my Rolls Royce, he said. It's a very interesting thing that as you could have it, he had the Rolls Royce even before, right? So what is Vedanta's role in that? The Vedanta has not helped him get the Rolls Royce, but according to him, he learned to enjoy his Rolls Royce. So many things, massive mansions these people have, but what is the enjoyment there? The enjoyment is only perceived by us because we look at it and say, one day I will have that, then I will be so happy. Ask the person living there, is he enjoying that mansion? Go ask. Means don't be rude. I know there are youngsters in class, so don't go about to everybody who has a mansion and say, do you enjoy your mansion? But check out for yourself. Use your own discrimination. Is it really true? So as you learn, as you develop, mind becomes available, and therefore, whatever you have, you begin to enjoy. We're all longing to enjoy things we don't have, but what you have, at least enjoy. Then intellect becomes available. Now, intellect becoming available is a very important, because what the intellect does is that it regulates your contact. So the consequence of the contact is not negative for you. When the consequence of the contact is negative for you, what will you have to do? Simple. No, you ate so many sweets, you got diabetes. Now what will you have to do?
Got the contact.
You have to break the contact. Then you won't be happy, right? Because now you're used to the sweets, but you're not getting to eat them. So when the intellect is there, it regulates the contact. And the consequence of regulating the contact is you don't suffer the ill effects. If you don't suffer the ill effects, then you can continue. No? And finally, as you develop in life, you are able to take loss in your stride. It is a fact of life that it's only a question of time that things will change. It's just a fact of life. What can anyone do? So you must be able to take the loss when that loss takes place. Now, loss doesn't have some timetable by when it will take place. It can take place anytime, anyhow, anywhere. So once you are mentally resilient, you are able to handle it. What is the difficulty? So therefore, the author has made a case for us growing to higher and higher levels. And the case for it is the higher you grow, the happier you will be. Say, no, I don't want to grow. Okay, then you stay where you are. What can anyone do? Then afterwards, don't complain. Oh, I'm not so happy. If we don't keep on growing, obviously our happiness is stilted, right? So why do we not want further growth? Especially if you have achieved some growth. Why is it that you don't want further growth? Very interesting thing. Did we study that last time? We did this part? No, no? Okay, then let's read that. So why is it that people who are grown don't want to grow? We did it, man. We seem to forget that all of us need to constantly grow to higher dimensions. Wherever we are, that is the lower for us. We already did this, remember? Wherever we currently are, that's the lower for us. The higher is the part we have to struggle with. With personal growth, we experience commensurate increase in happiness. But often, unfortunately, we smugly compare ourselves to those lower and deem growth unnecessary for ourselves. It's a very interesting thing, even when you're thinking about a Vedanta university. How many people think that the university should come? So let us say 100 people think that the university should come. Of these, how many people think that they should study at that university? Now our number will come down to 5. Because university should come, yes, people should learn all this. Everybody else should learn. Why? Because I am grown. Why do we feel like that? That's a very genuine feeling. Why do we feel like that?
Because we feel the effects of learning Vedanta and we think, that we have reached the end.
Okay.
We have no further growth. And the people who don't know Vedanta, we say, see, look at how many people who don't know Vedanta. We at least know Vedanta, so we don't need to learn anymore.
Yeah. Because we are always comparing ourselves to those less than us. Because unfortunately, we don't have so much access to people better than us. So suppose we were living with Vashishtha, Vishwamitra, suppose these were all the people we were living with. Then we will say, oh my God, I have to grow. But who are we living with? All the Lilliputans of the world. They come to us for advice. Now, in such a world we live in, then we think we are very great. That is Kali Yuga, that we are not surrounded by people way better than us. And if we are all the time surrounding ourselves with do-offs, then we will become do-offs. What else will come of us? So in an organization also, if everybody hires somebody of a lower caliber than themselves, then what will happen to that you think? Finally, they'll be hiring ants. All these ants will be running around. So to constantly strive to be with people who are better than us, to go out of our way to be with people better than us. But that we don't like, because why should I look down? I should be the top of my class now. What would you prefer? Would you love to be in a class where you're the top? Or would you love to be in a class where you're the bottom? Everybody will say, I want to be in the class where I'm the top. But that means everybody around you is an idiot. We don't recognize this. Because I'm so interested in being number one. So if I'm number one, it's very sorry for me, because who am I supposed to grow from? So because we're constantly comparing ourselves to those lower than us, we feel no reason to improve our stature. Wherever we are, there are higher rungs for each one of us. By not reaching out to them, we stagnate and suffer. Now, this stagnate and suffer is a big problem in life, because our stagnation, as you grow higher and higher, will not appear as stagnation. It will appear as happiness. So where is the suffering? That happy period will go on for so long that take a long time before the suffering starts. That means all that time you wasted. Imagine that. Isn't that sad? All that time was wasted thinking, I'm so happy, not recognizing that you're going. You're not making any progress. So you will stagnate and suffer. Say, no, why will this person now see? These are the 5 reasons why developed people will not suffer. Now you're saying he'll stagnate and suffer. Yes, when the suffering comes, it will take some time, but it will come. So be warned. Praveen, are you new to class? I think I'm seeing your name for the first time. Praveen? I think I really have to improve my appearance. Everybody thinks of me as like a really come new to class. Nobody talks to me. Have you realized that? All at least put on your videos. There's so few people in class today. You can put on your videos today. It's not a, I don't think we'll overload the system today. All right, come Mahesh, let's go further. And that brings us to our next topic. Okay, so we did gross and subtle happiness. Now we're going to do another type of happiness, deep and superficial. So, does that mean that we can all take up higher pleasures and enjoy them? Yes and no. We can take them up, but we cannot immediately enjoy them. It doesn't come easy. If pop aficionados listen to classical music, there would be no pleasure. You realize that if you love pop music and you were made to listen to classical music, you'll say, what are they doing? They're doing this, nothing is happening here. Nobody's dancing, there's no noise, it's just so what? There's no pleasure. One needs to make the effort to cultivate a desire for the higher. This is done by knowledge. So if you have to cultivate a desire for classical music, you'll have to study, understand what is so great about that which these people are doing. And then slowly you start beginning to get it. So that is done by knowledge. Thereafter, slowly, the deeper levels of pleasure unfold. This brings us to another distinction in happiness, deep and superficial happiness. One can experience happiness either at a superficial level or at a deep level. When the desire, this is a little complicated. I think let's just tell you what this is about before we read it, so that you're clear about the concept before we read it. I don't know whether the concept is well written or not, but let's see whether an explanation helps understand it better. Superficial pleasures means surface pleasures. Deep pleasures means something that comes from deep within your being. Very, 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 very inherent, intrinsic to you. Okay, so when you have a desire which is very inherent or intrinsic in you, you will experience what is known as a deep pleasure, like maybe a desire to have a child. This desire can be very deep in a person, and so when they have a child, it will be like a, I don't know, it will be the most magnificent thing in their life. Or it can be just a superficial level desire. Right? Now, in your own mind, you will be able to identify desires for yourself, which are superficial. They give you a certain amount of pleasure when you fulfill them, and some which are very deep. They're very, very satisfying because that desire itself is so deep. Everybody is able to fathom this idea. Yeah, I mean, we all know it, right? I mean, Vedanta is a lot sort of intuitive because it is telling us about our own experiences. So we have experienced that some happiness is superficial happiness. For instance, you know, people give you a first prize at a party and they say you're the best dressed person or something like that. Joyce, you have parties like that over there? Best dressed.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So these
It
are
happens.
so here also they'll have some lands, something or Rotary or something. They're best dressed, best couple. Something. So these people get very excited and they get some 10 rupees, voila, something, and they are very thrilled because they're the best dressed. Then what happens? Then that's it, end of story. Now, this kind of superficial pleasures which people get is very different from that deep satisfaction of, let us say, uh, working very hard in something and doing an excellent job of it. Worked on a project, and that project was fabulous. Very deep, different, right? So every human being experiences deep pleasures and superficial. Now Vedanta says that deep is equal to subtle. Now, in our own experience, that is not so. Can you not have a deep desire? So that will give you satisfaction. But it's not a particularly subtle desire, right? So we have a problem here. That how can subtle desires be deep? 90% of the time, it is subtle desires are superficial. So because we don't have such deep desires, right? So that's a certain concept that we are dealing with at the moment. But you're able to understand that there is deep and there is superficial desires. Now, deep desires are supposed to be subtle. Now, here's where a problem arises. That's the part which is being explained. Yeah, Prashant?
Ma'am, in terms of agitations, how can we classify deep and superficial happiness?
Same.
Absence of
Absolutely.
same agitations?
So deep and superficial will be, I mean, the definition will not change. Happiness is cessation of agitation. If the agitations are very deep,
Okay. I got it.
right. So shall we continue? This brings us to another distinction in happiness: deep and superficial happiness. One can experience happiness either at a superficial level or at a deep level. When the desire is deep rooted, the satisfaction thereof is more satisfying, more satiating. When happiness results when the desire is a core desire, much happiness results when the desire is a core desire. Thus, in the comparison between the happiness content of gross and subtle desires, we would also have to assume equal permeation. Okay? This is the important line. Thus, in the comparison between the happiness content of gross and subtle desires, one would also have to assume equal permeation. Subtle desires, by their very nature, are deeper and inherent in the personality. The self or Atman is the core of the personality. Enveloping it, as it were, are the material levels. The first sheet is the intellect, the next is the mind, then comes the body. Then the world, the outermost body. That is the circumstances in which we live. Right? So you're seeing the difference, right? So deep inside our personality is the self, then comes the intellect, then comes the mind, then comes this physical body, and then comes the surroundings, which is the world. So far, so good, everyone? Anyone has a problem with this about how?
Yeah, that line about like has to have equal permeation.
Okay, that isn't
The
explained. It will come.
no,
Equal
but the
permeation.
paragraph started with deep and
Hmm.
superficial. Then it brought in that,
Hmm.
just dropped in there. Okay, so now it will be explained.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Because, yeah, okay, let's see whether it's explained. Anyone else up to this point is fine? That there are deep and subtle pleasures, there are deep and superficial pleasures. Deeper means subtler. Okay? Because only subtler pleasures is supposed to give you deep happiness. So now what is deep? We are defining, right? So inside, deepest inside us, self. Enveloping that is the intellect. Enveloping that is the mind. Enveloping that is the body. And enveloping this body is the external world. Now, just to let you all know, I mean, totally off the point, but since it's there, the Nitya Vastu is the self. Nitya Vastu means the eternal object, is the self. Its Vastu, or the area which contains it, is the intellect. Then the Vastu of the intellect is the mind. Then the Vastu of the mind is the body. And the Vastu of the body is this external world. So most people think of Vastu as only this external world. That's a very limited way of looking at it. So when they say, oh, you must improve the Vastu, we are always improving something in the world. No, that's not what you improve. What you improve is this. This is your real Vastu. I mean, nothing to do with the context, but just so that, Mahesh, when we are talking not about the text, then you can remove this. So it's got really nothing to, whole Vastu Shastra has come to mean only external world now. But in India, we never deal with anything like this. And all the focus, all the emphasis is only on creating the environment. Not that we shouldn't create the environment, but then what about all these internal things that are also happening? So what is a Vastu? That which holds the Vastu is the Vastu. So once you get this, the base concepts of Indian philosophy, then the other sciences start making more sense. We want to have a good Vastu. So we start from the external world. We make sure that all the stimuli is good. Then we make our body fine. Then we make our mind fine. Then we make our intellect fine. And the whole purpose of all of this is it's housing the divinity. And we're making it all fine, just like we make the temple fine because we're worshipping the Lord there. So, these sciences all, you realize why these sciences grew so much in India. Once you understand the base ideas on the reason why all these things started. Okay, that's just off the point. But now let us come back. We have got deep desire, deep happiness, and superficial. What we understand is the deep and superficial as we know it. But in Vedantic terms, deep is always subtle. Sensual pleasures appeal to the body, emotional pleasures to the mind, and intellectual pleasures to the intellect. So, to these three things, there are three types of pleasures. Those who live in the outer layers of their personality have not yet gained access to their subtler desires, but they will one day. When they do, they will perceive very differently. Much like a child does not know of his desires for home and spouse. He may even mock those who have those desires. But one day, the child will also be interested in the same things. Then he will perceive and act differently. He would have gained access to something he cannot currently conceive. As an adult understands this, as an adult, you understand this. All developed people look upon the unevolved as children who will grow up one day. There is more affection and amusement than condemnation. So look at this child. He is playing with his toys and he's seeing his elder brother falling in love with some girl. And he says, I'm never going to grow up. Ish, what nonsense. He wants to go play with a girl. How horrible. But when he grows up, he will also feel the same way. Those subtle desires are deep. We do not have access to their depth. Okay, so I hope this is clear. What is a deep desire according to Vedanta is clear? Yes? So the closer it is to the self, the deeper the desire it is. Correct? So therefore, the deeper the happiness that you're supposed to experience from it. But we don't. Okay, the greatest happiness you can have is in longing for the self. Now, do we have that happiness? So, where is that happiness then? So, that's the explanation. So, here, Deep Raj, comes the business about permeation. Okay, go ahead. Though subtle desires are deep, Ramchandra, what is subtle desire? Where are you, Ramchandran? Why can't I not see you? Can you switch on your video? Okay. So why? What is a? If it's not comfortable for you, you need not switch it on. When what is a subtle desire? You have to begin with what is a desire in itself. What is subtle in itself? Okay. All right. Right. So what is subtle? Subtle is defined as something that has greater pervasiveness and greater control. So your mind is subtler than your body because your mind pervades this whole body and can also be elsewhere. I mean, you can think of anything other than the body as well. Then your intellect is subtler than the mind. And of course, the mind controls the body. Two qualities of subtlety: pervasiveness and control. So mind is subtler than the body because it pervades it and controls it. Intellect is subtler than the mind because it pervades it and controls it. Okay, so what is subtle? Anything that has greater pervasiveness or greater control. Then it will become subtle. So what is a subtler desire? One which has greater pervasiveness and greater control. For instance, is classical music more subtle or pop music? Suppose we have to answer that question. And somebody says to you, no, I think pop music is subtle. How dare you say it's classical? Then we'll have to say, what is my yardstick? So what is the yardstick? Subtle means that there has to be pervasiveness and control. So anything that can happen in pop music can happen in classical music. The ability is there. And the control is there. Control is there means, suppose you knew classical, you knew Carnatic classical. You can sing any song that, let us say, Justin Bieber sings. But Justin Bieber will not be able to sing any song that you know, right? So there's more pervasiveness, more control. So what is a subtler desire? Wherever there is greater pervasiveness and greater control. Right? So intellectual desires are subtler than emotional desires. Emotional desires are subtler than physical desires because of greater pervasiveness and control. Spiritual desires are, of course, the subtlest. Okay. So let's continue.
Question, my Shilpa.
What is there? Shilpa? Is it subjective? What is subjective, Shilpa? Why have you not switched on your? You usually switch it on, right? What
In,
is it
okay.
subjective? What is the
Yeah, subjective means for every person it is different, isn't
what is
it?
different?
The desire, the
Mhm.
desires are different for each and every person, and
Everybody
it
has
is
different
subjective,
desires, correct? Yeah, then
and it is subjective, like I like pop and you like classical or something like that. So, um, or there is some benchmark for the desire, like everybody will like this or everybody will like that. It's not
no,
like that, right?
no, of course not. How can everybody like the same thing in your own
Same
house?
thing.
People will.
Exactly, that's what I feel,
Huh.
that it is subjective.
Oh, Shilpa Shah, you are this Shilpa Shah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
So, yes, it is subjective. I thought you are our other Shilpa Shah.
No,
I didn't know
there
that
are
we
two, I think, but
yeah,
I
now.
don't know the other one.
Hmm. So, so yes, so um, everybody has different desires. So, how will you determine which desires are better or worse? Right?
Yeah.
You can't say because they're my desires, everybody will say my desires are better than your desires. That
Yeah.
is how people will talk. So
Correct.
it has to be some yardstick. What is the yardstick? We use the yardstick of subtlety.
Okay.
So those desires which are subtler are
Mm,
considered to be better, and they are better because they give you better happiness.
mm,
Okay?
okay. Yeah.
Those subtle desires are deep. Why are subtle desires deep?
Because they permeate more into the self.
Yeah, because they're closer to the self, correct. Those subtle desires are deep. We do not have access to their depth. So while subtle desires are deep, my subtle desire is not deep. What can I do about that? They are hidden by the presence of the grosser desire. So an intellectual desire is no doubt subtler than the mind's desire. But the mind's desire is a full fledged desire. So it is sort of covered it up. Thus, a subtler desire may be mature or nascent. For a person who has not deep delved deep into his personality, you're aware of mature and nascent, right? Mature means it's come to the forefront, it's developed nicely. Nascent means still in its potential form. For a person who has not delved deep into his personality, the subtler desire is nascent. Like for a child, what's a nascent desire? Give an example of a nascent desire for a child.
Career planning.
Sorry,
Career planning.
career planning. Very good. Excellent. So it's a nascent desire. Now, this nascent desire or potential desire will come to the forefront one day. He doesn't know. The parents know that now he's saying, I don't want to have a career. But by the time he comes to 20, he will say, I want a career. He's desperate for a career. So if he stays uneducated, he will feel terrible. This is a problem in life, you know. I don't know if you realize this problem of life. You have to work always for something that you see no value. And the child goes to school, he sees no value in it. Somebody is forcing him to do it. When a worker works in the organization, he sees no value in that. Somebody is making him do it. He says, you have to do this. Even the staff in your house, you don't know what they're doing. Unless you're a visionary, actually, you never see value in what you're doing. It's an amazing thing. Everybody has to work and they don't know for what. It's better known that we know for what and then we work. The animals are all working to fulfill their desires, but they don't know for what. Why are you to fulfill your desires? They don't realize that it is their step on their spiritual journey. So the tiger must be thinking, oh my God, every day I have to run and catch these deer, and these stupid deer, they run so fast. I mean, I don't know whether they're capable of grumbling or not, but if they were, they could say, no, that, oh God, these deer, I can't eat any food until I catch a deer. That stupid deer runs so fast. Where am I going to go every day and try to catch one deer? Terrible. He doesn't know why he's doing this. We also have no idea what we're doing with it. So, even though we don't know, the laws of life are working. So, people who see things in our interest and understand those laws, they try their best to force us, make us do things that we don't want to do. The scriptures try out their best to tell us. Imagine they say, do your duty, do your duty. I won't do my duty. I'd rather go and have some fun. Though they tell us, we're like, really? I have to do my duty? Don't you see that fellow? He's not doing his duty. Why should I do my duty? Interesting, no? Why do it? Because your nascent desires will come up one day. And you yourself will say, I should have done that. Though subtle desires are deep, we do not have access to their depth. They are hidden by the presence of the grosser desire. Thus, a subtler desire may be mature or nascent. For a person who has not delved deep into his personality, the subtler desire is nascent. The person pays it only lip service. It does not give him deep pleasure, and he will tire of it easily. For example, a person who has not yet developed a taste for classical music will not be able to bear it for long. He barely can spend a few minutes with it. A subtle desire which is full blown, which has matured, provides deeper fulfillment. Thus, the quality of pleasure enjoyed by a person who can relate to classical music is more satisfying than by a person who relates to a lower form of music, assuming the intensity of both desires is the same. Okay, finally, we've come to the permeation has to be the same. What is permeation has to be the same? The intensity of both desires has to be the same. The trick of life is to keep, okay, so far so good. Any questions up to this point?
No, ma'am.
All right, then let's continue. The trick of life is to keep elevating one's desires with the help of knowledge. Grow to subtler levels of the personality. Expand the awareness. Include more in the vision. Move from physical to emotional to intellectual to spiritual. But first, we have to at least believe, know that such a thing is there. Most of us just want to hang out in the physical. Some of us want to hang out in the emotional. Some few want a little intellectual stuff, just a little salt. Spiritual to bhuli jao. Physical pleasures are only for the individual self. Emotional ones include family and friends. So I hope you're seeing how the vision is expanding. Emotional ones include family and friends. Intellectual pleasures cover a wider circle of identification, where one can be concerned with those one has not seen. It includes concepts like nation, ecology, ideals, arts, etc. So do you see this difference? At the physical level, what are our pleasures? That which appeals to this body alone. At the emotional level, what are our pleasures? We've expanded our vision. Now I see more than this body. I see my family as me. I see my friends as me. I feel the whole circle as me, right? Now their pleasures that they are eating is satisfying to me. That they are enjoying is satisfying to me. So when my circle is increased, but in emotional pleasures, what is it? They're just this group who I can see, who I can meet. When you go to the intellectual level, now you can conceive beyond the people in my immediate circle. I can conceive the idea of a nation. The people of this nation could be very different from one another. In like, what is the similarity between somebody in the, let us say, the East? Maybe Deepraj knows something in Meghalaya or something. What are their clothes? What are the customs? How is it in any way like Southern India? How is Southern India anywhere like Northern India? And how is anything like Western India? Totally different. Each place has its own culture, its own language, its own dress, its own Ramkatha. Whole thing. Even Ramayana in this country in every place is different. So it's a very interesting thing that the concept of a nation, or if you're in Europe, the concept of the European Union, it's a concept. Everybody's so different. Everybody has its own language, their own dress, their own culture, their own music, their own everything they have. But the concept, if you're European, you are part of me. Or if you're Indian, you're part of me. Or if you're Asian, you're part of me. The conceptually, it's got nothing to do with who you've met, who you know, who you love. So it grows. It may grow in various different ways. I'm just giving you one. I'm just giving you one of geography. It could develop that way in art. It could develop in science. So scientists say all scientists are my people, maybe. So it just grows. Right? So physical vision very restricted. Emotional vision grows to the family and friends. Intellectual, a concept that you're living for. Could be liberty, fraternity, whatever. Some concept you have. Yeah, Prashant?
Ma'am, I didn't get that point, that intensity of both subtle and gross desires are same. In that sense, the agitations are same. Does it imply that?
Yeah, so that's a problem here. Deep desires means self is within, then intellect, then mind, then body. So that's how the depth goes. But deep desires also mean what I am experiencing deeply. Like if I have a deep desire for, I don't know, going to China for some reason, I have this deep desire. And then I go to China and then I'm like, oh my God, I'm so satisfied. I feel so great, whatever the person feels on going to China. So now going to China is not a very subtle desire, but it's deep for that individual. So he'll say that no, your theory is wrong, that deep is not as Vedanta defines it. Deep is my deep desire, what I have a deep desire for, right? So that's why it comes the point of equal permeation. So if you have a very mature desire, you can have a mature desire or a nascent desire. So when you have a mature desire and it's come to full bloom, obviously you'll experience it deeply. But if it's just a nascent desire and it's not in full bloom, how will you experience it deeply? You can't. So you can have a nascent desire for, let's say, classical music, and a full blown desire for pop music. You will find pop more satisfying, and you will say that is deeper because that's your experience. So in this case, the Vedantic stance of deeper and not deep doesn't seem to fit with our human experience of deep and not deep. Correct? So it seems to us that the theory is wrong. The theory is not wrong. It is that there is not equal permeation of both desires, and if they were both mature desires, then you can make a comparison. You can't make a comparison between nascent and mature desires. Yeah, Deep.
This concept about mm, this subtlety or the intellectual, emotional, physical desires. The intellectual desires are supposed to be like all pervading, right? So, like the circle of identification has increased because now that person can conceptualize, like as you say, he can conceptualize the nation and humanity. So why is it even after a person has the ability to do this sort of abstract thinking, especially, I mean, if you look at universities, they're very intelligent people, they cannot seem to be able to bridge that gap, whereas somebody who cannot conceptualize maybe still has that love and identification.
It's a matter of growth. No, what other answer can there be?
But growth we have related to having intellectual and emotional
Yeah,
desires.
but then you have committed the fallacy of equivocation. You have used intellectual desires in the sense of I like intellectual things to mean intellectual desires in the sense of a vaster vision. So, in other words, mathematics is an intellectual desire. Comprehending the concept of a nation is an intellectual desire. So when we are using the term intellectual desire, we're not using it in the sense of mathematics. We're using it in the sense of the vaster vision. That's why all definitions, in Vedanta, all the time, definition. And people don't even like definition. They say, no, tell us inspiring things. No, first learn definitions, then you go to inspiring things. Because, in a language, the thing changes. So if you have mathematical desires, you have a better ability to grasp the knowledge and grow to real intellectual desire because you have that. So you're slightly in a better position, but that has to actually happen. It's not automatic.
How am I in a slightly better position?
Because the knowledge transacts in logic, no? So you're in a slightly better position than a person who doesn't understand the intellectual. A mathematician is in a slightly better position, a mathematician or a scientist, because already trained to go by the logical steps and say, okay, if this, then this, and this, and this. Which is different for, let's say, a musician, for instance. He's not trained in that thing. So that way you're better off and go step by step.
Okay, because the intellect is a subtle equipment, I have a better shot.
I don't know, a mathematician could have a better shot. Yes.
Okay. So here, when we define this, this is a particular definition of that relates to the circle of identification, physical, emotional, and intellectual. This is how it's defined.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Otherwise, you will, if we don't use this definition and we use it in the general sense of intellectual, then all of whatever Deepak says will become true, right? You see people who are extremely intelligent. Here are people, as Ravana is extremely intelligent. Shakuni is extremely intelligent. We don't count him in this. Spiritual pleasures indicate the pursuit of truth, God, self. At the spiritual level, the identification is with everybody and everything. As we climb up the ladder, greater and greater happiness is accessed. We never consider the eradication of desire as a method of sustainable happiness. Our attention is riveted to objects and beings, and yet fact exists. Sadly, this fact doesn't sound appealing. It gives the impression that we are losing something rather than gaining happiness. It immediately strikes us as effort and we are disinclined. That little speed bump keeps people in their misery. If only we could look beyond it, how happy we would all be. I mean, imagine that in every aspect of life, whether it's spiritual or any aspect, to make money, you will have to go through a speed bump of tremendous effort, and then things will smooth. To do well in studies, you have to go through a bout of effort, and then things will smoothen out. In everything in life, even in relationship management or conflict management, when we are in conflict with somebody else, to sit down, to be honest to yourself, to understand your own motivations, all this is difficult. It's so much easier to say, oh, that's a horrible person, I don't want to deal with. But that incapacity to deal with conflict is what is going to stop you from having good relationships with anybody. Because sometime or the other, we are all going to be in conflict with somebody or the other. So we must have the tools to deal with that conflict. Shilpa Shah. Oh gosh, now this Shilpa Shah is going to cause us a lot of trouble. We have got two Shilpa Shahs. I think we should have Shilpa Shah 1 and Shilpa Shah 2.
Yeah.
So an artist can't be intellectual or they can't have intellectual desires. No, of course they can. Because the art, part of intellectual desires, as defined in the way we've done it, is that intellectual desires means the vision has widened. That means let's say a musician, he's doing it for the art. He's doing it for the whatever, for for the art. I mean, it's not about him doing well, it's about the art form being developed or whatever.
Yeah.
So he or she has envisioned something beyond the immediate, what he can touch and feel.
Yeah.
So yes, of course. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you an artist?
Got it. Yes.
Okay.
Got it.
The process of elevating desires continues until we gain the highest desire, that is the desire for self-realization, enlightenment. This desire is different from the rest insofar as it's a desire to end all desires. When there are no desires left, that is the state of realization or enlightenment. What happens then? It's the state of ultimate happiness, forever happiness. So you can, if you want to have complete happiness, you can only available at desirelessness or self-realization, whatever you wish to call it. More metta. The head and the heart scope creep into each other's domain. No, they don't creep into each other's domain. The heart remains heart, intellect remains intellect, but the conceptually, when you're growing, what does it mean that your vision is expanding? So that means now you can conceive something beyond what you can touch and feel. That's what it means. The method of eradication is through elevation. Yes, correct. The method of eradication is elevation. As you elevate your desires, the lower desires fall off. Okay, so that's it for today. Continue next time. Hari Om.
Yeah.
Hari Om, Janki. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Janki. Hari Om.
Hari Om, ma'am.
Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Janki.
Hari Om.